In the 11th house, we meet the human race. This house is associated with the groups we join, the clubs and social networks we're a part of, and the friends we make. It's also the house of hopes and wishes. As I've said before, all of the keywords in any house are joined by one simple notion. What do groups, networks, friends, the human family, and hopes and wishes have in common? Find this and you find what makes the 11th house tick. These keywords have to do with shared ideals and aspirations. Both our wishes and the groups we join say something about what we want to become. This is clear in the case of hopes and wishes. We wish for things we want. We hope for things we feel would make our lives and ourselves bigger. Groups and networks do something similar for us. If we have an individual trait or the stirrings of a talent, on our own, we can only take it so far. To truly expand, we need to bring it into a group. Normally, the groups we choose to attend share our ideals and aspirations. If you're a budding writer, you get better by being in a group of writers. If you're serious about learning to play poker, the best way to break through to the next level is to join a poker club. Each of these groups says something about what we want for ourselves and how we want to develop. But it's a little more complicated than it seems because the 11th house is ruled by both Saturn and Uranus. How can this mismatched pair with such different personalities rule the same segment of the wheel? They mix their features. Let's begin with Saturn's influence on this house. Saturn is the god of time, and in fact, time is an important part of the 11th. But we aren't talking about agricultural time as we do when we look at Saturn as the ruler of Capricorn. Now, as ruler of the 11th, we're talking about a specific moment in time. That moment is when right now becomes the future. That moment is always right in front of us, and yet we can never touch it. That instant is where we do our becoming, and we become a more fulfilled individual. Everything relies on that moment, and yet in one of Saturn's sleights of hand, that instant never actually arrives. Aspirations are the same way. As we fulfill one, up comes another. Saturn influences the 11th in a few other ways. For example, groups are by nature structured and grounded. They offer a foundation, and there's always a framework around any group. From the garden club to the parapsychology conference, they're organized for a purpose, and they cement a person in the community. Time, cementing, organizing, structuring. These are all deeply Saturnine concepts, but it's easy to see Uranus expressing himself as well. For instance, groups of people are unstable by nature. They're always changing. In fact, it's almost impossible for them not to. The chemistry percolates and membership fluctuates, sometimes drastically. And that's why one meeting of a group can be so different from the next. So far, it seems like I'm talking a lot about larger social gatherings. So, where do friendships fit in what sounds like more of a community? Technically, friends are in the 11th, but I've learned that truly intimate friends fall into the 7th. That's especially true if they fulfill a partnership role in any way. The rules aren't always as hard and fast as we'd like, but the one thing that's true of the 11th house is that there is no intimacy requirement. And definitely, the 11th contains your network, your associations, your peer group, and even the faces you recognize throughout your day. Some of your friends who are more of acquaintances might slip nicely into the 11th. Others are too intimate, too much like family. When it comes to the wheel, you have to remain flexible. Just know the purpose of the 11th house. It isn't to reveal yourself to a true equal in order to gain human contact. No. The purpose of the 11th house is to become part of a larger group by making social connections. Ideally, we join groups so that our individual values will get a chance to be expressed through a larger entity. If you can hold on to what's special about you and grow it in a larger group, you've done the work of the 11th. There are some groups you go into and you know you don't belong. You're disconnected from their concerns and you feel like an outsider. In others, you know you've found your people. This is your tribe. Finally, you're someplace where everyone is like you. At last, you're average. That means the group has helped you find yourself simply by virtue of existing. That's the most healing part of groups for Neptune in the 11th. This placement has an interest in joining groups with a spiritual foundation or with roots in higher consciousness or in a metaphysical discipline. Neptune is also the planet of the arts, so being attracted to groups that surround art and poetry and lyricism tends to happen as well. That includes fashion, glamour, and social refinement in general. This placement is stylish. We also see a strong social conscience and lots of ideas about what humanity could accomplish if everyone just dipped into their higher self. I've also seen a strong sensitivity to what's going on in the collective mind. Neptune in the 11th has tendrils that reach out and check the mood of the human race. This comes from the fact that Neptune is limitless and has porous boundaries. This placement feels cleansed, in other words, gets rid of guilt through serving others. So they tend to get involved in working for causes. This is usually part of a utopian view of the world where the stronger in the system should help the weaker. Now, whether this is a negative or a positive is up for grabs, but Neptune in this house tends to be the one to bring home strays. That includes people who are sick or downtrodden or needy in some way. Lastly, on the positive side, Neptune in the 11th can be quite a gift. When an opportunity opens socially, when it's the right group at the right time, Neptune can synthesize everything in a single moment, and intuition can tell them exactly what to do and who to trust. Intuition is an extremely accurate navigation device. Without it, the underbelly of this planet can run wild. The danger of finding Neptune in the 11th is finding groups that have no direction and no aspiration, like an opium den or a crack house, where everyone is involved in self-undoing. They may also be drawn to cults and conspiracy theory parties, and even groups with rigid ideals that require obedience and erode individuality, the opposite of what a group is meant to do. I'll end with the fact that this placement kind of watches people flow into their life naturally. They don't have to go out and make friends, not consciously anyway. Groups and associations just kind of show up out of nowhere, floating in on Neptune's waters. Thank you for watching Secrets from an Astrologer's Desk. Stay tuned for all the ways you can get in touch for a birth chart reading and full astrological services. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.